Hello, and welcome to another edition of Maximum Growth Live. I am one of your hosts, Jayru Wayne, CEO of FirmFlex, your social media marketing agency for lawyers, as well as managing partner of Wayne Attorneys, a civil rights and criminal defense firm, and who knows what's next firm, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, in Connecticut. But with me, as always, my buddy over there, down in his Washington, D.C. office, no longer working remote. It's my man, Seth Price. Seth is the founder and managing partner of Price Benowitz, your D.C., Maryland, Virginia, and South Carolina law firm handling PI, criminal, and family law. I think that's it right now. As well as the founder of Blue Shark Digital, which is a SEO for law firms as well as other agency interests as well. So Seth, it's been a while since we've been live together. We've had some replays the last couple of weeks. How you been the last couple of weeks?
It's good. You know, the getting back to the office is good. It is stressful. You know, you're starting to, towards the end of this, we talked about getting in, we ripped the Band-Aid off, we're all remote. But I was seeing areas that, I didn't love the extended disappearance. Areas that are great. There are a lot of lawyers never coming back, and we talked about, and you'll probably talk about reducing footprint and things along those lines. Blue Shark is still all virtual. We're getting a space in the next month or two. But we did an offsite for Blue Shark. We had 50 people for the day. People flew in who weren't local. It was awesome. And you forget that energy that is there. There's a lot of drama, there's a lot of expense, but there's a lot of benefits to being around each other.
Yeah, there definitely is. And, it's funny. I've been back in the office now somewhat consistently for the last couple of weeks. And, it's still a little quiet. It's not nearly what it used to be. A lot more lights off than on. But I'm hoping that over the next couple of months, we get into a rhythm and more people are coming in. We've got a whole team on a civil rights case that has basically set themselves up off-site because they had to work together before our offices reopened. So once that summer judgment time gets taken care of, they'll come back in and it'll sort of, I think, raise the number of people in the office and we'll get back into a flow. But I wanted to talk to you first thing about an issue that I've had recently. I don't want to say it came out of the clear blue sky because there were rumblings of it, but and we've talked about it. I just had my state of Connecticut legislature wipe out an entire practice group and destroy years of hard work, years of revenue, years of growth. And in about 14 months from now, everything that we've done in pardons is going to just evaporate because they're going to become automatic now. Whereas before you'd have to file an application. That's where we became a market maker. Our volume was tremendous, but we made a lot of good money and did a lot of good for a lot of people. And so now I'm at the point where I need to start investigating what practice area is going to replace that because I need to build another practice area. And so I wanted to talk it, and I think we're going to talk it through on the show over the next couple of months.
We will over the weeks, but it's funny because I spent much of COVID curtailing practice areas. We have a whole bunch of smaller ones, but I woke up one morning and I talked about this with Jim on their show and realized that our immigration just wasn't exciting from a profitability point of view. It wasn't a passion. The person I had was heading back to the government, and rather than retooling, which is what you do historically when you lose somebody, I turned to Jim and said, "Hey, this why don't you open a DC office?" And again, and this wasn't the case for you because it was a profitable area, but being able to trim and look at things that may be less profitable, not the worst thing in the world as well. We talked a lot about during COVID about pivoting and open other areas, but I feel that there are times that, not with contraction, but with increased focus on, only so much bandwidth to go around, that I think we have been very pleased and have not looked back on that, extricating something from your practice when it's either not a passion or not exciting enough to the bottom line, and that effort could be better used with better multiples in other practice areas.
Yeah, it's certainly something that's going to be a challenge for us, because we had me and my love for systems. I really took all the things that I had learned in building my other practice areas and really sort of built this expungement pardons practice from the ground up, all systems based. It functioned really well. And I'm a little heartbroken to see it disappear. I know it's going to be good.
As a digital marketer, you'll be able to combine the sites and gain authority. You got the reviews. You're going to come out of this from a digital marketing point of view in a really good space for your existing product lines. I have no doubt.
So, okay, so let me ask you a question then, right? So I've got this standalone brand, and it's got about 150 5-star reviews. It's solid. It actually holds position 0 for many of the search terms. I mean, we have the knowledge box, which is great. So do I combine that GMB listing with my main law firm listing and take my 200 reviews up to 350 overnight? Or do I take that and merge it with one of my secondary office GMBs that have got like 50 and get that up to 200 pretty quickly? What would you do in that situation, Seth?
Great question. I think it depends where you are compared to the market for your main office. If you dominate the main office, let's say you are the closest competitor at less than 100 reviews. I don't remember last I've looked in Connecticut. If you are blowing away the competition, why 5x it? I mean, to me, That's not necessarily a good thing. I think when you go too far from the competition, it can look unreal, like not natural, right? Gotcha. Whereas if you have a second office and you could basically gift yourself a second office, not the worst thing in the world. So, if your money office makes you the most, but your geography is such that a second office probably does you more than one Mac Daddy office. And that if you could put a second meaningful pin on the map, that would do you as much or more good than maximizing the first. But a conversation I'm sure we'll have over the next couple of weeks and possibly right here.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, this is the kind of thing that you and I have talked about for years without people listening in on it. And now we're just doing it live so people can sort of see our thought process. And I'm sure I'll fight you on some things and you'll fight me on others. But that's what it's all about. What issue are you dealing with that we can help?
The things that I'm looking at right now is we talked about this sort of last time we were there, expanding, an overseas workforce to sort of supplement what we're doing, and trying to figure out how to get through recruiting quickly. I mean, the two biggest pain points in operation, we talk about this all the time, it's recruiting and it's intake. If we could wave a magic wand, those are the two areas outside of the substantive law practice that, I'm taking marketing as a given because I feel like,
for us it is
solid. That's the other leg here. But making the phone ring, what you do with it, and then getting the talent in the right seats on the bus to do it. And to me, coming back, again, this is nothing major. These are very doable, but we had sort of allowed certain people who were, to move during COVID. COVID's over. I don't necessarily always want all of those people remote. If we're going to be back, and there's certain things, who cares, right? If it's an independent lawyer, they can do their own work. But if it's somebody who's touching employees, there's a certain amount of value of popping into offices and making sure everything's okay, getting a pulse on things. Again, there are operations that are set up fully remotely. God bless them. But I think that is what I'm looking at right now, which is tweaking things to get back to hopefully the new normal, which it may not be 100 cents on the dollar people sitting in your office, but for those connectors, for the touch points, taking your connector touch points and bringing them back so that they are fully on board, so that it may be that the staff doesn't all see each other. There may be Tuesday, Thursday people and Monday, Wednesday, Friday people, however it ends up working out, or maybe some mixture, but the people that will connect and keep the culture going, making sure that's reinforced and not virtual, and that is the piece that I've worked on. So
that's a real challenge, and one of the things that's a challenge for me, and I'm going to say something that I haven't told anybody yet, but I actually have officially put a date on my calendar to be actually 100% out of the daily practice of law. And it's something that I've been toying with, but I made it July 23rd of next year, so that I have a deadline for myself, because I want to get to a point where I am an owner and not in the daily practice of law. Now I'll still do I'll still do the marketing stuff because I enjoy that, but I am not going to touch a client after July 23rd of next year. That's my goal.
Well, look, that is the best possible segue to our guest today, right?
Exactly.
We have a gentleman who is, John Nachazel, who is, really, he talks the talk about taking yourself out of what you think you're best at or what you think you're good at or what you like and figuring out what can be delegated and making that happen. So I can't wait to hear what John has to say, because this is what he speaks to and that the whole EOS system sort of works towards. So I'm curious to see what your reaction is after hearing him.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So why don't we do this, folks? Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll have one of the co-authors of Fireproof, John Nachazel, here with us to talk all about his role in his firm and how he makes things different. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Jayru Wayne, one of the founders of FirmFlex and a practicing attorney for over 20 years. Anyone who knows me knows how my firm runs on the systems we create, and it has allowed us to flourish, even in tough times. I spent years and hundreds of thousands of dollars until I finally figured out a way to engage my audience and drive top-of-mind awareness with social media. And what did I do once I figured it all out? I built a system for it, and now you can put that system to work for you. You see, we took the hard part, creating the content and finding the images, and made it foolproof. Every day you will have curated social media topics to post designed to make your firm constantly remind your audience about your firm, what you do, and how you can help. And the best part? You don't even need to hire a dedicated social media person to do this for you. In fact, you don't even need to hire anyone new. We designed the system to make it easy for you to delegate to your receptionist, assistant, or paralegal and have them execute solid social media for you in just 5 minutes a day. It's like having a content writer, researcher, and graphics designer at a fraction of the price it would cost to hire in-house. Sign up today for the Social Super System and start building your brand where your clients already are, on social media.
In this world today, if you want to grow your business, you want to grow your firm, you want to take on more cases and make a bigger impact, you have to have a digital blueprint. Statistically, throughout the time that we've been working with Blue Shark Digital, our law firm, the Atlanta Divorce Law Group, grew over 1,400%. They truly understand where we're headed and how we want to get there. I have a team in Blue Shark Digital that I feel like has my back.
We're thrilled to have John Nachazel here. Welcome, John.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, John, in addition to being the COO of one of the largest badass firms in Michigan, you have written the bestseller Fireproof, and you also, as the king of lawyer EOSing, have a group that does all these things now, helping other law firms with traction. My question for you is, you've seen the inside of not just the firm that you've helped grow, but now a number of other ones. What, when you look at law firms in general, what do lawyers not get that EOS can provide?
So I would say what they don't get are some of the business basics. So they are so caught up in working up the case, and they get lost in working up the case, and they get so preoccupied with how busy they are and the onslaught of incoming work that they don't take the time to ask some of the basic questions, such as where are we going and who are we, what do we want to do, and how are we going to get there? And it's they're too often highly reactive instead of making just deliberate choices and acting in a very deliberate manner towards what they want to accomplish.
One of the things I was curious, I was lucky enough with John Fisher's to hear you for a day and sort of give us a kickoff for our own implementation. But one of the things, before you chose EOS Traction, What were did you guys look at different models that were out there? Because one of the things that they talk about with this model is that it doesn't play well with other, methodologies, that you sort of got to pick something and go with it. How did you guys end up with this compared to some of the other options that are out there?
Yeah, so I have to plead ignorance on that one, to be honest with you. So because Michael Morse, he's our visionary owner, founder, and he went out and he signed up with Gino directly, Gino Wickman, who's the author of Traction and founder of EOS. And it was Gino that taught Michael that he needed an integrator, and Michael didn't know what that was. And so he taught Michael what that was, and he'd already had 3 of his meetings, and he'd selected 3 members of his leadership team, and then he knew he needed an integrator, and he ended up adding me. So I just don't know what other concepts he considered at the time, to be honest.
Gotcha. And did sort of dovetail something that Jay, we were talking about beforehand, as far as, all the different roles that as a lawyer entrepreneur. Jay, I'll toss to you, because you that was sort of something that was on your mind.
Yeah, it's one of the things that really is sort of interesting is as one of the things Mike really came to you, from my understanding, after he had an operation and it was running and he was starting to want to get into the scale. But a lot of our audience are solos, very small firms, sort of in the learning how to walk, crawling and learning how to walk stage. And I'm starting to wonder, what can we learn that you guys have dealt with, and what can our audience learn about, getting to the point of knowing how to integrate some of the ideas of the visionary, but not necessarily having the bandwidth to be able to bring somebody in at that position, to be in that position full time. What can you tell us about how new firms can have both a visionary and an integrator in themselves as they're starting out?
Well, they're going to have to be very deliberate. When I joined, I was employee number 28. And so Michael had already achieved a certain level of success and had some resources. But some of the things just aren't going to come naturally. It's a rare person that is good at being both a visionary and an integrator. And so what you have to do is, at a minimum, is be aware of what your blind spots are. It is, Michael, he's very self-deprecating, so I'm sure he won't mind me sharing that he thought that he was the best trial attorney on the planet. He was the best check signer on the planet. He was the best at going to Costco to buy the office supplies, and did all of those things because he was truly, in fact, the greatest person on the planet for doing those things. And that makes no sense. It's not, he wasn't operating in his sweet spot, in his highest, best use. And there were plenty of people that were better at these things. And so one is just being aware of it. And then when you're aware of what your blind spot is, if you don't embrace data, and there's going to be tons of solos out there that don't understand the value of data, at least be aware of it, and try to fight that urge to just operate all on instinct and being reactive, because it's going to be out of control, and you're not going to be able to scale, and you're not going to understand what's happening to you. So number one, at a minimum, is understand what your blind spots are and what your weaknesses are, and then look for someone in your organization, or someone that you have access to. Maybe it's your outside CPA, maybe it's your secretary, maybe it's your receptionist. Maybe there's somebody in your life that can compensate for your weaknesses, because you absolutely have some. And if you lie to yourself about it, the only person you're fooling is yourself. I'm terrible at a ton of things. Luckily, Michael happens to be fantastic at all of those. He's terrible at some things. I happen to be strong in all those areas. So it's be aware, and then when you do go looking, look for your polar opposite. Don't look for someone that is looking through the same lens as you and getting to the same conclusions that you are, because that doesn't make you any stronger. It doesn't provide any value to just hear from somebody that happens to agree with you. but doesn't make you better and doesn't challenge you.
So, look, you sort of laid out what worked there. I'm curious, as somebody who's sort of dipping our toe into it and moving rocks and having, mission statements, et cetera, sort of checking off early boxes. What are some of the things, was it all smooth sailing, or are there things that you wish you knew when you started, or hiccups along the way that we could help the audience sort of hopefully navigate around, or at least know that they may be coming?
Yeah, so I would say this, that one of the hiccups along the way that I wish I would have been more thoughtful about was that lawyers are some of our best lawyers who are fantastic at trial, and they're fantastic with clients. You would think that they have the intelligence and the people skills to manage people. And that's not true. Some of them do, but a surprisingly small number of lawyers are actually good at managing people. Even though they had what I thought were all the fundamental building block pieces, and a bunch of them just don't enjoy it at all. And so we had people that we put in position to manage teams, and then they came to us, after a year and a half or two and said, no more, please. I went to law school to be a lawyer, not to be a manager. And they weren't enjoying it. And so we had to pivot and found those small number of people that happened to be great lawyers, yes, but also great managers of people, and building a team and having fewer teams that were larger, because we only had, a handful of great managers in our presence.
That seems to be one of the biggest challenges that Seth and I talk about frequently is finding the right people for the right job. But I want to go back to a thing that you talked about a little while ago, and that was, relying on data more than instinct. And I think it would be important. I know you guys have the scorecards and that type of thing. Okay, let's talk a little bit about that for our audience so that they can truly understand the role that data plays in managing any organization, but specifically a lawyer organization. Because, so much of what we do as trial lawyers is, do I pick this juror or that juror? Well, it's a gut thing. I can't say with specificity, when I put a number on a file, on a PI file, do I want 75,000 or do I want 95,000? It's sort of a gut thing for most of our people that are listening. But talk a little bit about some of the metrics that you measure and how you unpack that data to be able to make concrete decisions to move yourself forward.
So there's so much there. Let me go with one of the stories in the book that we talk about. Is in 2018 we projected, I forecasted that we would finish the year at 160 million in disbursements, and that was higher than we'd ever done before. And I did it by looking at the average case value, the timing at which the cases actually end up yielding money, and then the number of cases that we signed up. And so part of my thought process there is I'll project out, here's where we're going to be, and knowing then once I know the revenue, and that particular year I was off by $1,700, so it was extremely precise. And the point of it is, and that was my best forecast. I'm always within 1%, usually within 1 or 0.2%. But I don't add up the projections of what the attorneys predict on individual cases and sum them. Instead, what I do is I take averages of what's really actually happened, and I tell them, here's what your docket is going to produce, rather than asking them. And I tell them if they're doing a good job rather than asking them if they're doing a good job. And yes, there's back and forth, and you need facts, and there's room for the explanations and all, but it's being thoughtful. It's going through the year and knowing that we're going to have 160 million. And then you make deliberate choices. Well, how much do you want to allocate to marketing and advertising? How many people are we going to require in each area in order to achieve this and deliver this 160 million? How many cases are we going to sign up? So I'm looping a little bit, but let me try it this way. So one of the other things that we do is I'll ask Michael, where do you want to go? And as an integrator, I'm not too concerned about where we want to go. Do we want to get bigger? Do we want to get smaller? Do we just want to plateau? What do we want? Is he can tell me where he wants to be in 3 years. So in EOS, there's a 3-year picture and a 10-year target. And I almost feel like it's cheating with our firm, because I know what our averages are and I know how long it'll take to bring in the cases. So when we lay out our 3-year picture and our 10-year target, it's just math. I know the more we spend in advertising, the more cases we'll sign up. And I know how many cases we have to sign up in order to deliver that revenue. And so I just begin with the end in mind and say, if we want to be at 200 million, then we have to do this. If we want to be at 110 million, then here are the steps that we need to take. And it's just going through a thoughtful, logical process.
Now, do you ever have to go to outside resources and say, statistically in this greater area of Michigan, with this population that we have, there's going to be X number of accidents a year within, a standard deviation. So I know that if I want to increase my revenue 100 million, I may need to actually open in an entirely new area rather than just stay, because the market with what I'm dealing with and competitors and the law of averages aren't necessarily going to be there to get me to the revenue that I want. Is that something that you look to as well?
So that information is out there. I mean, I can look at accident report information and look at those stats. But the surprising thing is the small number of cases that, when you consider how many accidents there are, how few lawsuits there actually are as a percentage. So what I found more interesting was that we're the number 2 advertiser in our state. We spend the second most money. We happen to be the largest, but we're the second largest spender. We have never hit diminishing returns, and that shocks me, but I know what it's going to cost us to acquire a case. And I know that if we boost our ad spend by $1 million, that our number of cases that will sign up will still go up. It won't diminish yet. So it's kind of hilarious and easy to just know this is how many cases we want to sign up every week. Okay, and I know our cost per case to acquire it. Now I know what our ad budget is, and I know we're going to sign up these cases, and I know how much money it's going to yield. So here's how much money I have to play with in order to fund all of the overhead expenses and the team payroll and everything else that we need to accomplish, and allow for a nice profit at the end as well.
It's interesting to me, a lot of our audience that are smaller firms are thinking, wow, that commitment to that advertisement is such a risk, but it sounds to me it's less risky than the small firms that are just trying to eke by because they don't really have a system in place to guarantee regular return of cases. They're more hoping for those small referrals or, the sponsoring a little league team and that type of thing, whereas you've actually taken a science to it and saying, hey, if we spend this much, we get this much. It's a lot more reliable for firms like yours.
It's funny because I don't know that I've really thought about it that way. It's such an interesting take on it. So it's what's more risky? Is it risky to spend that money on advertising, or was it risky for so many years for us to rely on getting cases from someone else, as
right.
we detailed in the book? And then we were at the whim of this person, and then magically, in one fell swoop, in one quick meeting, the source of 70% of our cases just disappeared. And we had 40 employees that we were trying to feed and provide for. And so we had no choice but to go big on TV, or we were going to have to let go of some of the 40 employees. And so we just decided to go big, and that was our only chance to make it through. So, but now that we've made it through and we have that achievable, predictable income, we can never be fired again because we're making the market. We're controlling our own destiny, which feels a lot more secure than hoping, do the best job you can for others and just hope that they see it. In retrospect, that was a lot more risky than fronting the money. Plus, part of the joy of it is when we stepped up and we did the advertising on our own, then we no longer got the worst cases, the leftover cases. Instead, we were able to get the cream for ourselves, and our average case value went up immediately.
Wow. Seth?
Yeah, you had mentioned something earlier when you were talking about working with a visionary and sort of like them wanting to do all those different things that they thought they were great at. One of the things I think that lawyers, including myself, I love playing with travel. Like that's my my vice. How do you get somebody to leave an area? I get if it's something like trying a case and you're saying, hey, trying cases first. Not although that's an issue Jay and I talk a lot about. Jay loves being in the courtroom and can justify it 6 different ways. But how do you sort of more as an implementer present that in a way that gets people out of those areas that they may like to do? They may not be bad at. They may, sometimes they're better people. But how have you been successful at moving people, whether within this firm or other firms, into areas that they might be a better resource for?
Yeah, I guess it's going through the delegate and elevate exercise as EOS has laid out, and it's really just getting people to understand everybody can get there. Even if they come into it with the idea that they're the greatest in the world at every single task, you can get them to pretty quickly acknowledge that that's probably not true. And then it's simply teaching them that you're there to help them do the stuff that they love and are great at all the time. And we want to take away the stuff that's beneath you, that you don't enjoy, that isn't your unique ability. It's let's get rid of that. So, it's going to people and saying, I'm working with you. I'm not commanding you. I'm here to help you. And if you're honest with me and we work together, then we can take away some of the things that you really hate, so that you can spend a greater percentage of your time doing the things that you love. I mean, it's generally a pretty easy conversation, and sometimes they have, whether you want to call it a sacred cow or whatever, but they have things that they don't want to give up. And you just have to press them that, they're going to cap their earnings. They're going to cap their ability to do the stuff that they love if they busy up their schedule with this nonsense that somebody else that's less expensive can do, and somebody that actually loves doing these things. And so many attorneys think that they're doing somebody a favor by doing the stuff that they hate to do, because everybody hates to do these things. And that's just not true. For everything that an attorney hates to do, somebody is out there that just loves it. That's what they thrive on and want to do it all day long. It's an energy creator for them, not an energy sucker. So, they exist. You just have to, work through it.
That reminds me of my brother-in-law. He loves firing people. That's because he figures if I'm firing somebody, I'm making the organization better. Right? And so that's his thing. He's like, I like to come in and say, we don't need these people. Let's get rid of them and make the organization better. And I know a lot of people struggle with that firing decision because they get too wrapped up in the emotion of it. And that's certainly there. Before we get to Seth, before we get to your last question, I want to ask a question of John about systems, because as everybody knows, I'm a systems-based guy. I love documenting systems, that type of thing. In an organization such as yours, with that size, obviously systems play a big role, and it's important for people to follow the systems that you have in place. How do you guys have your systems documented in that office? Do you use an online wiki? Do you have binders? How do you get somebody who's new into the office to understand, hey, we do things one way, and it's the law firm way, and that's the way we want to do it across the board, no matter what position you're in? How do you guys implement systems?
So I'd say two things. One is that we embrace the idea that less is more, and that having a very simplified process documented clearly and continuously updated is the key. If you have a 100-page manual, it's going to take forever to create. It's going to be really expensive to create, and no one will ever look at it. And our goal is to do it in about 3 to 5 pages. So it's there. So the process is documented, and then that's part of the onboarding training plan. When someone comes in, someone goes through that with them. But I think the most important thing that we do is we take those processes and we embed them into our practice management software. We happen to use CasePacer for practice management software. We use Lead Docket on the front end, and we use Business First for our accounting system. But we put in safeguards. Like in CasePacer, we have business rules that when a request for complaint is submitted, then automatically a tickler is created for someone at X amount of time for that request for complaint to be done, or for that complaint to be drafted. Then when someone completes that, automatically then another one is created, is now we need to file it. Once that date is put in and it's ticked done, automatically it's okay, now we need to service it. We need to serve it. So it's making it so that all you have to do, that the processes are embedded into your software. You show up, you look at the screen, and you do what the screen tells you to do. And you have guardrails that don't allow you to deviate. And then we're looking at the metrics. We're sucking the data out of the practice management system and putting together reports so that we can mine for things that are we go an inch deep, a mile wide, and we're just hunting for bombs. And then when we find a bomb, we go in and we teach and we correct and explain what's going on.
I love it. Seth?
Yeah, so to me, my last question was, I felt like when I met you originally, and you were sort of like, you had crushed it, you wrote this book, I felt similar like when I had done this for Price Benowitz. I figured out digital marketing for Price Benowitz, and Blue Shark was invented, and it was like, okay, how do we do this for others? And everybody was like, well, you did it for this group, but you had your thumbprint on that. You were a full-time employee doing it. Now, what are some of the things that you've learned? Because you don't control every facet of the firms you're now consulting with.
Correct.
It's a different environment. What are some of the takeaways now that you've seen the inside of a couple dozen different shops, and you're sort of seeing, I don't want to say an environment you don't fully control? Talk to me about that world now that you've seen the inside of many places.
Yeah, so I guess here's one of the things. I don't know if this is exactly on target for you, Seth, but it's a point I want to make anyway. Is that I feel that for me as an integrator, one of the things that has allowed me to be successful for Mike Morse is that I don't have to have it my way. I just want a deliberate decision, and that's all I ask for when I'm out there working with a Fireproof client. Is I am teaching them, I'm sharing them my insight. I don't have to be right. I have to provoke thought and force them to make a deliberate choice, and making sure that they've considered the outcomes and the ramifications of their choice, and tell them where I have experience and say, yeah, we went down that road and that was a mistake because of X, Y, and Z. But ultimately, this is your choice. I'm not trying to get them to do things exactly the way that we do it. I'm trying to lend the benefit of our experience, but then ultimately, I never cross over a fine line. I'm not running their law firm. I'm merely offering advice and teaching. And
understood and point taken. I'm taking it one step further. So you have seen that not everybody thinks the way you guys do. What are some of the insights that you've learned? I'm trying to sort of like crowdsource your wisdom now that you've seen all these different firms, strengths and weaknesses. What are the strengths that have made people more successful, at least in the limited time that you've had this new organization, versus ones that seem to struggle?
That's a great question. So I would say, I guess what I want to tell you is that it's data, and the people that are using data just have a better understanding of what's going on, and that they are able to really be more thoughtful and more confident and more secure with their decisions. And then I guess I also want to go with, I just feel like the ones that some of them struggle with identifying issues, that there's a mentality of, Seth's here, so I can't tell Seth that there's an issue in his firm. And Seth has created this environment where if you tell me my baby is ugly, then I'm going to be mad at you, and there will be retribution for this great offense. So whereas other good, healthy organizations are looking at it as every time you identify an issue, you're genuinely identifying an opportunity to improve. And that one of the interesting things that I've learned recently is that the military, the U.S. military, believes that the number one leadership trait, the most important for predicting good leadership, is humility. And I see that with these leaders that say, I don't have all the answers. I made this mistake this week. I made this other mistake last week. And when you set that tone, it allows for healthier communication, where you can very candidly discuss the things that are holding you back. And you don't, if you think that you're fooling people, that you're perfect, you're not. You're only fooling yourself. And if you show some humility and invite people in because you don't have all the answers, then they want to help you if you let them.
Well, so I think, Jay, I figured it out. Your next venture is just like Gordon Ramsay goes into the restaurants that need the turnaround. You're going to have your own reality show where you go law firm to law firm and uncover the dirt, turn it around.
I think that'd be fun. That'd be fun. Let's put together a dream team and we can do it. I think this would be very cool.
I'm in.
All right. Well, there you go.
Well, thank you so much, John.
All right. Thanks. I had a great time. Enjoy.
Thank you so much for being with. Before we let you go, tell everybody here we'll have some links to it, but tell us a little bit about the book and where they can find it.
Sure. Best place to find it is on Amazon. Otherwise, you can go to fireproofperformance.com and find it there.
Awesome.
And I think you can order it right there. I'm sure you can order it right there on the website, fireproofperformance.com.
Well, I've read it twice, and I thought it was a great book. So I really definitely think people should pick it up when they get a chance if they haven't had a chance to read it yet, for sure. Maybe I can get you to sign my copy. I'll send you my Kindle, and you can sign it and send it back.
If you would accept it, then I'll just send it to you. So
awesome.
Don't worry about that.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you for being with us today, folks. And we'll be right back with more Maximum Growth Live. Well, Seth, I mean, listening to John, the great thing about John is that he's not a lawyer, so he doesn't come to it with all of the biases that you and I might have, that our colleagues might have when we're evaluating business decisions. He is a pure businessman, and I think it shows in the conversation that we've had, but also shows in how far he's been able to grow that Morse firm. What were your thoughts?
Well, I was sort of smiling on the inside. I'm curious to see whether the date set at the beginning of the show for Jayru Wayne will happen, because I know, and we talk a lot, people do what they like to do. You and I have had this conversation ad nauseum. You have a bunch of excuses, some legit, some non-legit, for why you've kept yourself so much in day-to-day. And I personally am excited to see what Jayru Wayne could do with that additional bandwidth. It's amazing what you do even with yourself in day-to-day, but the sky is the limit if you figure that piece out. I don't think you're that far away, frankly.
No, I don't think I am either. But listening to John talk about taking away the things that you don't necessarily love. I've been able to shed a lot of those duties over the years and focus on the things. There's some things that I still do. I mean, there's no reason why I should be the one doing payroll, but yet I do it every Monday just because I'm the one. Yeah, I know, but
it was the Costco buyer.
Right.
It's like, and
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Like, I like logging in and saying, I'm paying these people for doing the work that I've generated. And I don't know, maybe it's an ego thing. It's literally just going in and it takes 5 minutes, but that's 5 minutes I could be doing something else that better moves the firm forward. And so I have to get out of my own way. That's the message that I got from today is get out of your own way. And nobody in the office that I work with here can come up with the crazy ideas. And now, I have to replace an entire practice group and all the revenue that comes from it. I really need to focus on that. That needs to be my primary focus to make the firm go. So, that's my, hopefully next year we'll be doing a show and I'll be able to say, yep, as of tomorrow, I'm out. So July 23rd, 2022. I'm going to be 100% out, and I did that because it's the day before I turned 50, and I know I got to spend your 50th birthday with you, and so this may not be as much fun as we had in Vegas, Seth, but it'll certainly be meaningful. That's for sure.
That is awesome. We will certainly have something to toast to that. And one of the things I think on future episodes that in doing these things and realizing, for me, both figuring out what we need in person versus away, for you retooling to other practice groups, I feel like if any of our audience members have any thoughts on resources, potentially even outside of the legal arena, on HR and recruiting, I think that is one of those areas that there's so much opportunity that isn't talked a lot about, and that those processes of how to bring candidates through and getting them to the team is one that will be a continued conversation over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I definitely think it's and I'm telling you, 22 years of my practice, getting the right people in has always been my challenge. If you know my dating history, I don't necessarily pick the right person. I lucked out with my wife, and you.
But over time, your decisions you get better with time, and part of it is I can look at Blue Shark. We started off, getting people. You had to sort of hope that you got somebody from local school with nothing else to do. We are, I just sat at an offsite the other day with people from UVA, Michigan, Northwestern. I mean, it's as you put that out there and you sort of figure out a way that people want to be there, and that's part of the conversation. Not only the process of getting it through, but how do you position the firm in a way that talent wants to be there? It's definitely a challenge, and one that we could spend a lot of time talking about.
It is. And even in a small firm, in a small area, you want to position yourself as the go-to people for something and be known for excellence. So you don't necessarily need to be a national firm to really want to bring in the right people that are local. But, we could talk about this for hours, and I don't want to do that, Seth. There's a lot of things that people should know. Number one, if you want to catch this show on a replay, you can listen to the Maximum Growth Live podcast, available wherever podcasts are available, even on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you go for that. You can also catch us syndicated every week on the Maximum Lawyer podcast. They catch us up with their feed, and there's some great stuff on there. The other thing I want to talk about, please be sure to come see Seth and me and a whole host of other people who will be speaking live this year in October at Max LawCon. You can find out more information at maxlawcon.com or maximumlawyer.com. It is a phenomenal seminar. Seth, I know you've been to the other two that have gone on. This one, the lineup of speakers has been announced, and we don't have time to go through everybody right now, but it's just...
The speakers are the least of it. Not taking nothing away from speakers, present company included, but the group and the esprit de corps of the crowd that's there, and both helping myself and watching young firms grow, it is really a great learning and sharing environment. So really encourage people to consider it.
Yeah, please do. Please come. And if you do, Seth will buy you a bottle of water, and you can hang out with him and just get a few minutes just chatting up with Seth. He is the most networked person in that place for sure. I'll be hiding in a corner because I'm an introvert, but Seth will be networking with everybody, and he'd be happy to host it.
You'll be in a Santa suit somewhere.
Well, people don't know that I was Santa. But anyway, Seth also has a phenomenal thing going on his Blue Shark page which is his SEO Insider. If you want to catch up on the hottest topics in digital marketing, be sure to tune into Seth's SEO Insider. It's a recurring show that he has where he interviews the movers, the shakers, and the money makers in digital marketing, and you can learn some really great nuggets. As you know, digital marketing is always changing, and so he covers the best topics to keep you up to speed on what's going on. And if you are anything like me, or even a third like me, and you love systems and you love growing your firm, please join my Systemizing Your Law Firm for Growth Facebook group. We're almost at 300 members right now. Every week I'm posting 2, 3, 4 different systems that people can cut and paste, apply into their firm, and we're getting a lot of good feedback. So I'd love to have you in the group with us where we can talk about great systems that you can implement to make your firm move faster, smarter, and better for you. So that's going to be it for it, Seth. Thank you so much for being with me today. It's great being back live with you and doing a show like this, and having John as a guest was a knockout. Very, very happy with this week. So anything else you need to say, Seth, or we cover it all?
No, I can't wait, and let's do it again next week.
Let's do it again next week. All right, folks, that's going to be it for us here at Maximum Growth Live. Bye for now.